like to bring the committee to order and would apologize to all attendees for my tardiness. Your time is as valuable to you as it is to me. I would simply start by saying this is my favorite hearing of the year because we do want to hear from our colleagues, recognize everyone is motivated to ensure their nation is as safe as possible, but that we also expend our monies as effectively and as efficiently as possible. So I would like to begin by our colleague from Texas, 16th District. And I'm sorry, Mr. Colbert, if you have any opening statement.
I have no opening statement, Mr. Chairman. Looking forward to listening to the members.
Excellent. Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Visklosky and Ranking Member Calvert. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify on the fiscal year 2020 defense budget. In my brief time today, I'd like to emphasize the value of the Defense-Wide Manufacturing Science and Technology Program, an incredible collaborative technology program that supports valuable capabilities across the Department of Defense while also fostering the growth of an important and complementary engineering and research sector. From exploring logistics and recapitalization efficiencies to piloting of prototyping labs in Afghanistan and 3D printing at sea, it is difficult to summarize the full scope of applicability for our nation's armed services. In fact, having recognized the advantages additive manufacturing can offer in the cost, speed, and customization of production, all the military services have invested in building this critical capability. And our peers, by the way, are close behind. Under the America Makes function of the program, institutes of manufacturing innovation across our nation already pursue developments in additive manufacturing, including in the burgeoning field of 3D printing technologies. These institutes undertake research, offer educational support, and ultimately help ensure the technical superiority of the U.S. Armed Forces, as well as the symbiotic next-generation manufacturing workforce that we need in order to sustain our national defense. The part of this program that is perhaps the most significant to me is that it is centered around public-private partnerships. These critical ties between academia, industry, or even NGOs and our military are vital to communities like mine in El Paso that leverage the best of both intellectual worlds and create value for our military in the process. The W.M. Keck Center for 3D Innovation at the University of Texas at El Paso, or UTEP, is a world-class multidisciplinary research center that is home to over 60 students, faculty, and staff of various engineering disciplines. Since 2015, the Keck Center has also worked in partnership with the Department of Defense as a satellite center for America Makes. The Keck Center has since been recognized for the multifaceted benefits it produces, technical excellence, an outstanding educational program, and the ability to positively impact the surrounding community. Facilities like ours provide training in advanced manufacturing skills to service members and veterans, as well as members of the community at large. With all the successes to date and the expanding demand for advanced technologies and in-theater capabilities to support our warfighters, I believe a $10 million increase in funding is warranted. This funding would help expand and improve our excellent training programs, creating a standardized training curriculum that future centers could adopt for the benefit of their communities. The expansion of such a program tailored for and directed at veterans, current military personnel, and citizens in economically disadvantaged communities will provide untold benefits to American service members, veterans, and our national economy. Finally, we cannot forget the important benefits to readiness and modernization. Presently, our military is struggling to manage soaring maintenance costs while investing in strategic priorities like modernization. We already know that additive manufacturing improves acquisition and maintenance across the life cycles of weapon systems. We know, and our service secretaries have agreed, these investments are necessary for our military readiness. As the department undertakes audit processes and continues to seek efficiencies in service of its strategic mission, I'm confident that the value of investments in additive manufacturing will demonstrate their worth time and again. I urge your support of increased funding for this important program that offers such rare benefits to both the defense and civilian sectors, and I thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Ms. Escobar, I appreciate your testimony very much and the fact that you are looking to do advanced manufacturing. You're talking about public-private partnerships. I think it's close to the committee's heart. My only question is, what were you thinking about doing NYU?
What was I thinking about?
Yeah, what were you thinking about?
Why did I leave Texas?
Ms. Gallagher?
Thank you for your testimony. Enjoyed it. Obviously, this type of technology is important to the future of the country, and I'll work with the chairman to see if we can help.
Thank you, and I would welcome both of you or any members of the committee to visit the Keck Center at the University of Texas at El Paso. You will leave completely impressed and excited about this partnership that we have with the military and with the defense industry, and really the opportunities are significant ahead for us. Thank you.
Are having a new president of your university.
Yes,
Secretary
former
of Air
Secretary, yes, soon to be
Yeah.
former Secretary Wilson, that's right. And so hopefully with her experience and knowledge, we can continue to advance this sector. It's remarkable, the kids who are going through this program, learning additive manufacturing and then teaching it to the military sector, many of them are first-generation Americans, and they're getting their PhDs. They are leading the country in terms of this technology. I would love for you all to visit UTEP and see it. We'd welcome you.
Kind of cheating having her as president, but we'll let it slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mr. Carter, thank you for coming back.
Thank you.
You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have the honor and privilege of representing the 1st Congressional District of Georgia, which includes the entire coast of Georgia. We have every branch of the military in our district. We're very blessed to have Moody Air Force Base in Valdosta, as well as Kings Bay Naval Base in Camden County, as well as Fort Stewart, Hunter Army Airfield. We have 2 Coast Guard stations, one in Savannah, one in Brunswick. We have the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. All of this is very important to our district and very important to our country. To begin with, let me talk about Kings Bay. Kings Bay is home to the Atlantic Ballistic Missile Submarine Fleet. And I've seen firsthand the dedication of the sailors and their families here. And the Ohio-class submarines have played a crucial role in nuclear deterrence, but they'll soon be reaching the end of their life cycle. In order to make sure that we have nuclear deterrence, I support robust funding for the Columbia-class program to ensure the timely development and deployment of our nuclear submarine fleet. Additionally, we're looking at the retirement of the SSGNs, and they currently provide the largest undersea strike capability for non-nuclear launches. This is very important, but they have certainly served an integral role across the globe, but we need to know how those are going to be replaced and how they will impact the nation's submarine basing decisions. The Virginia Payload Module is a cost-effective way to preserve our undersea strike capability and offset the loss of our guided missile subs. And it's for that reason that I submitted language that would direct the Department of Defense to explore and deploy a plan that would determine how those would be fully replaced in the future and how those basing decisions would be made and where. And of course, at Moody Air Force Base, we have the A-10s. They are operated out of Moody Air Force Base. And as a matter of fact, I'm very proud to tell you that the 74th Fighter Squadron was just awarded the Gallant Unit Citation, an award that's only been given 5 times in history, and the first for an individual squadron. This is certainly something we should be celebrating, certainly something we're proud of for Moody Air Force Base. There's no question about the A-10's capabilities and what they are able to do and their survivability. But again, I'm submitting a request to fully fund the A-10 platform and any upgrades, including wing replacements. The Compass Call platform is also an integral part to our ability to win, but it is aging and needs to be replaced. We have an opportunity to include robust funding for the Compass Call airframe and support the needs of combatant commanders. And it's for that reason that I will accelerate, or that I request that we accelerate development and get this force multiplier in the air, providing necessary intel and capabilities to our commanders. Also, the ability of our military installations to properly mitigate extreme weather events to increase training opportunities is essential to the ability of our armed forces to maximize readiness. This is especially important in our district. As you know, we've had a number of extreme weather events in South Georgia, and certainly with Hurricane Irma, with Hurricane Michael, Hurricane Matthew, all of those have had an influence. We've had fires, we had the West Mims fire, all of the natural disasters that are happening and are really impacting this. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Engineer Research and Development Centers performs essential installation assessments that allow garrison commanders to better determine how to maximize their resources in support of soldiers. And by allocating proper funding to this account, we can better understand how to fully utilize the tools available to ensure the military is fully prepared. I want to reiterate the importance of this again. We've had a number of natural disasters in this area, and this is extremely important. Finally, the STAR-based program and the National Guard's Youth Challenge program have helped to better the lives of thousands of kids across the country. I've been and I've visited this. I've been intricately involved in this and know the value that this brings, and it certainly has been a value to our community, and we certainly support funding of this as well. I appreciate your attention to all these matters and these requests. Again, it's an honor and a privilege to represent the 1st Congressional District. The military is an integral part of our district, and it's very important to our national defense as well. So we're very proud of that, and I appreciate it, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Ms. Carter, I do appreciate that every year you appear before the subcommittee. You're very consistent about that, and do appreciate your commitment and passion. Particularly appreciate your interest this year in Starbase. We have a program in Gary, Indiana. And as I like to joke, the mayor, I, and the adjutant general from the state were looking at a periodic table on the wall during one of those programs and figured when we were younger it was smaller and still don't understand it. Any questions? Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
No, other than just to say that I can't think of a more important program than the Columbia submarine program that we're happy to fund and make sure that we have a modern submarine fleet to make sure that we have that deterrent in the future. So thank you for bringing that
Absolutely.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson. I would ask if you're a Tulane or LSU person, but I don't think I
LSU all
have.
the way, all the way. Undergrad and law school, so bleed purple and gold.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I very much appreciate it, and Ranking Member Calvert and esteemed colleagues. I greatly appreciate you giving us the opportunity to provide our input during the committee's Member Day hearing for fiscal year 2020 Defense Appropriations Budget. First, I want to provide this subcommittee with a brief introduction on the important role of my congressional district. We do play a critical role in advancing the national security interest of the United States and the world. I have the distinct honor of representing two vital military installations, Fort Polk, the JRTC, and Barksdale Air Force Base, as well as various Louisiana National Guard facilities such as Camp Menden. Fort Polk is home, of course, to one of the only two Army Joint Readiness Training Centers in the nation, and it provides invaluable training to our soldiers so they're fully prepared and equipped for battle. Barksdale Air Force Base, of course, is home to the Air Force Global Strike Command and includes the 2nd Bomber Wing, which houses 3 squadrons of B-52 Stratofortress bombers, the 11th Bomb Squadron, which is the training squadron, and the 20th Bomb Squadron, and the 96th Bomb Squadron. Over the years, I've developed strong relationships with the generals based in my district and certainly appreciate the opportunity to serve them and all of their men and women in Congress. I'm meeting with them, and I'm absolutely convinced of the critical nature of their roles in these installations. Additionally, their insights reinforce my belief that the United States must remain the preeminent military power in the world to preserve balance and maintain peace. As this committee deliberates and assumes the responsibility of ensuring the Department of Defense has all the resources necessary to do its job, I wish to point out several areas I believe are pertinent to achieving that goal very quickly. As is evident with ongoing provocations from Syria, North Korea, Iran, Russia, and others, we live in a highly uncertain and incredibly complex times, as we all know, which further highlights the importance of ensuring our nuclear force modernization. I support the President's FY20 budget proposal that continues the implementation of the Nuclear Posture Review through investments in the nuclear triad. Barksdale Air Force Base and the Global Strike Command continue to benefit from investments in DoD research and development to meet a broad range of security threats from our adversaries. In addition, I asked this subcommittee to examine the needs related to developing critical weapons generation and maintenance facility areas. They are critical and remain critical to protecting our homeland. Placing a weapons generation facility at Barksdale Air Force Base is a top priority for many members of the Louisiana delegation and should be for every member of Congress. It just makes sense. Facilities like this allow the U.S. to be a nuclear force capable of deterring our enemy and, if necessary, surviving a surprise attack. Especially given today's foreign climate, the need to keep a close watch on our adversaries is as important as ever to assure our allies and maintain our defense. It has been said here before, and I believe it's worth repeating, as then Secretary of Defense James Mattis stated when speaking about maintaining a safe and secure nuclear deterrent, quote, "We must ensure a war that can never be won will never be fought," unquote. Just as I believe we must invest in strong nuclear deterrence, a robust investment in cybersecurity must follow, and I know you all appreciate that. Safeguarding DoD's networks is critical to ensuring no bad actor can collect sensitive information or penetrate our cyber capabilities with the intent to do harm. In my district, we have we collect sensitive information and take care of those things. And we have public-private partnerships with DoD and local organizations that benefit directly from resources authorized by this committee. We have organizations like the Cyber Innovation Center and General Dynamics and Radiance Technologies, other partners all located in Northwest Louisiana. And they have partnerships with DoD to assist in maintaining and improving the cyber capabilities that protect our homeland from all these cyber attacks. Lastly, I just want to speak briefly about the needs of the U.S. Army. While it's vital to have a capable and robust nuclear option, we must also maintain a strong ground force. Fort Polk Army Base has continued to solidify its footprint as a multi-pronged home for military affairs with a vitally important state-of-the-art Joint Reserve Training Center. The JRTC serves as invaluable training for revising its assist roles as well. It provides soldiers the training and flexibility necessary to carry out the demands placed on them and win. The exercise scenarios learned there replicate many of the unique situations and challenges a unit may face while deployed, and it's really something to see. I hope you can all visit if you haven't recently. With that in mind, our ground capabilities face near dire infrastructure needs. For that reason, I asked this subcommittee to continue funding the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, which is vital to the welfare of our service members and their families. And furthermore, the program assists local government, of course, in addressing infrastructure needs that ultimately support our military installations. I hope to work with all of you on the subcommittee to ensure that the Army uses the right information and the proper methodology to maximize our resources and appropriate facilities to ensure these training units have the resources necessary to address challenges facing our nation. In closing, I look forward to working with all of you to support these critical military installations and ensure our force structure has these critical items within the fiscal year 20 defense appropriations budget. Again, certainly appreciate your time. Grateful that you do this for all the members to allow us to come and plead these needs, and I know you all appreciate and understand it. I thank you so much. Questions?
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate especially the reference to the Joint Reserve Training Center at Fort Polk and also the mention of infrastructure investment. We all are strong proponents. Too often people leave that for last, so appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Comments, question? Ms. Cole.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to note for the record, I was born at Barksdale Air Force Base, so I think this guy should get heavy consideration for these requests.
I forgot about that. I actually knew that. How could I forget?
And they
Should have led with that.
And they were probably still flying B-52s back when Tom was born there.
That's right. That's not true. It's going to be a 100-year aircraft.
We're in a B. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Williams? I did not know until today that you were head baseball coach at TCU. What are you doing here?
Well, I ask myself that all the time, believe me. I also am here to confirm that there were no B-52s when you and I were born. So.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ranking Member. I thank all of you for the opportunity to take a few minutes to discuss Fort Hood, Texas. The Great Place, as it's known, is home to over 36,000 soldiers and airmen who nearly 6,500 American warriors currently deployed in support of global combat, peacekeeping, and humanitarian operations. Our soldiers bring to Central Texas over 48,000 family members, making Fort Hood one of the largest and most populous military installations in the world, delivering $24.6 billion to the Texas economy last year. Last May, I had the privilege of traveling to Iraq and Kuwait, spending time with General Funk and the 3 Corps soldiers. The experience is one that I will forever treasure, and furthermore, I am compelled to advocate for our service members today. Fort Hood's top priorities continue to be improvements to barracks, motor pools, and aircraft hangars. Each one of these infrastructure types are critical for the health and welfare of the soldiers, as well as their professional ability to carry out their assigned duties. I ask that this committee take every possible initiative to fully fund these projects in the fiscal year 20 appropriations package and increase O&M funding to the highest practical level. It is critically important that soldiers have a safe, they have a clean and welcoming barracks to return home to each day. It is imperative that they also have a safe workplace with a structure that supports their daily responsibilities and allows them to perform at the highest level. I also would like to call attention to North Fort Hood, home to the 1st Army Division West and staple in my district. Division West serves a critical function in the pre, post, and demobilization operations, a mission that has likely affected your state's U.S. Army Reserve or National Guard units in some way. I encourage this committee to make every possible dollar available, whether from OCO or base, to support this critical defense activity. As the DoD and FORSCOM continue to rely on the U.S. Army Reserve and National Guard units to supplement manpower shortages, we must ensure that we are providing the training, the funding, and resources available to maintain their effectiveness and their lethality on the battlefield. We should also take the opportunity to promote revenue-generating practices, one like the Intergovernment Services Agreement, IGSA, that is pending in Fort Hood. This IGSA would allow for Fort Hood to direct their recycling off-post into the community for processing. Such agreements are revenue positive for the community and further improve relationships and commerce between military installations, the important communities that support them. Chairman and Ranking Member Calvert, Chairman Visklowski, thank you again for providing me the opportunity to discuss the defense priorities at Fort Hood. Your steadfast support for our servicemen and women does not go unnoticed. It is my hope that this Congress will continue to provide necessary funding to our armed forces and ensure that they have the tools they need to remain the finest military in the world and the one the world has ever known, no better. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield my time back.
Appreciate your testimony very much, and do appreciate the reference to our military personnel's health, their safety, their families, and really appreciate your commitment to them. The only question I have is, I thought Judge Carter represented Fort Hood.
Well, we basically split it. He thinks he represents it all, but
that was my
but
question.
basically,
That was my
yeah,
question.
you know, we split it, and we both fight hard for our soldiers. So,
Do a great job. Thank you.
thank
I was
you.
going to make a point. I think Fort Hood is what, the largest base in the country?
It is large, 342 square miles. As I tell people, bring it on.
Yeah, it's a great base. I've been
It's
there.
big. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Okay, Scanlon was, what time would he have been? 9:05, 10, 15, 20, 25.
She may not be done. She's not here? Yeah, here comes Sherry, so she's got the schedule.
And I assume,
Hey, sorry,
you're
I'm late.
recognized, Mr.
How
McGovern.
you doing? Hey, pal, how are you? Sorry.
You may proceed.
Thank you, and thank you. I want to thank the chairman and the ranking member for allowing me to be here and to testify in support of the Wounded Warriors Service Dog Program. And I'd like to thank the chair and the ranking member and the committee for supporting $10 million, which is level funding to this program for fiscal year 2019. And I ask that the committee increase funding for this program from $10 million to $11 million in fiscal year 2020. This modest increase will allow the program to deal with inflationary costs and other increased expenses, as well as expand to any new qualified grant applicants. In addition, I request the committee insert report language addressing the benefits of canine therapy for the treatment of PTSD and TBI symptoms. I've included draft language for your consideration at the end of my formal written statement. And I want to express my gratitude to the committee members for their assistance in securing funding for this program since FY15. Already, we've seen so many incredible success stories in which these dogs have helped veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress or physical limitations to reintegrate into the social framework of their families and communities and often reduce their reliance on prescription drugs. You know, over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to spend time at the National Education for Assistance Dog Services, or NEADS, which is located in my district in Princeton, Massachusetts. Like other similar nonprofits, NEADS customizes the training of each dog to serve its future owner. And dogs can be trained to retrieve medicine from a refrigerator, turn the lights on, and scan an empty house before the owner enters, guard an owner's back in a public setting, and even wake up an owner from a nightmare. I've talked to countless veterans who have said that these dogs have literally changed their life for the better after experiencing difficult after effects from returning from war. Nonprofits like NEADS are doing their best to meet the growing levels of demand, and thanks to your support, the Wounded Warriors Service Dog Program has allowed these nonprofits to help hundreds of additional veterans over the past 3 years, but yet we continue to see long waiting lists of service members in need. In the Defense Authorizations Bill, Congress first directed the VA to research the effect of service dogs on veterans with PTSD in 2010. 9 years later, sadly, the VA is still conducting the research. Meanwhile, the demand amongst veterans for service dogs continues to grow as research conducted by private institutions such as Purdue University increasingly demonstrate that service dogs can help treat symptoms of PTSD. Moreover, I guarantee that if you sit down with a veteran who has received a service dog, it will become perfectly clear how helpful these dogs are. So while the VA continues its exhaustive research on the topic, we have wounded veterans who attribute their recoveries to service dogs, and other veterans for whom a service dog could be key. So I want to thank this committee specifically, and the leadership of the chairman and ranking member for making sure that these veterans were not relegated to a waiting list. Together, let's continue to support these highly professional nonprofits so that they can continue to do what they do best, and that is help our veterans. I would also like to testify today in support of a military service medal to honor retired and former members of the armed forces who were exposed to radiation. And I ask that the committee provide robust funding for the creation and distribution of an Atomic Veterans Service Medal. Last fall, for the 4th consecutive year, an amendment to create this medal was dropped from the NDAA conference report. I find it particularly shocking as this amendment, which I offer with my Republican colleague, Congressman Tom Emmer, was approved by the House unanimously. The House has shown strong support for the Atomic Veterans Service Medal, and I respectfully ask the subcommittee to provide the necessary funding to honor these veterans. And I just say between 1945 and 1962, about 225,000 members of our armed forces participated in hundreds of nuclear weapons tests. And these GIs were placed in extremely dangerous areas and were constantly exposed to dangerous levels of radiation in performance of their duties. They were sworn to secrecy, unable to even talk to their doctors about potential past exposure to radiation. Thankfully, Presidents Clinton and George H.W. Bush recognized the Atomic Veterans' valiant service. They acted to provide specialized care and compensation for their harrowing duty. All that remains to be done is to honor these troops with a service medal. In 2007, our allies Great Britain, New Zealand, and Australia authorized and awarded medals to honor their atomic veterans who served with the United States. Regrettably, the Pentagon remains silent on honoring the service of our atomic veterans. arguing that doing so would diminish the service of other military personnel who were tasked with dangerous missions. Mr. Chairman, I think that's a pitiful excuse. Tragically, more than 75% of these veterans have already passed away, never having received any recognition. They served our country honorably. They kept a code of silence, even with their doctors, and as a result, I think that may have led to many of these veterans passing away prematurely. So past administrations and Congresses have dealt with their with the thornier issues of legality and compensation. What remains is recognizing these veterans and to honor their service to our country. And time is running out. So I thank you for listening to me on these two requests, and I urge the committee to look favorably on these.
Appreciate the gentleman's testimony. Also appreciate, Mr. McGovern, again, you are a annual attendee. I appreciate your commitment, especially to those who have been injured, who are sick in defense of this country. I do appreciate that very much. The one favor I would ask is to make sure that you do have a copy of your testimony left with the staff. We do not have a copy.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions?
I will leave it for you.
Thank you very much.
And let me just say, I'm happy to see my ranking member on the Rules Committee, Mr. Cole, who I have great admiration for, and who reminds us every day that if the appropriators ran this place, it would be run much better. So I thank you for your work.
I would associate my remarks with Mr. Cole. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Khanna, please.
Thank you, Chairman Visklowski, Ranking Member Calvert. Good to see Representative Cole. I had the opportunity to testify at his committee, and Representative Rogers, who I had the opportunity to go to his district. First, let me thank you for your many years of public service to the chair and ranking member, and appreciate the dedication to many of our nation's brave service members. Your leadership is an example to the rest of the House in the bipartisan way that you have conducted this committee. I would also like to express my appreciation for the $350 million in funding awarded to the peer-reviewed medical research program within the Department of Defense this year. This subcommittee's continued bipartisan commitment to increased funding for important medical research is one of the best long-term investments for our active duty service members, veterans, and families. As you know, this program drives vital research on conditions and diseases directly affecting our military personnel and their families. My request today is for the addition of food allergies to the list of conditions eligible to be studied under this program. Food allergies afflict 32 million Americans and their loved ones, including 6 million children. That's almost 10.8% of the country battling with daily, sometimes mortal dangers caused by food allergies. TRICARE faces the rising cost of care and support for military families suffering from food allergies. According to the Department of Defense, TRICARE provides coverage to almost 9.4 million people around the world, almost 4 million of which are family of service members. That means that almost 400,000 beneficiaries are afflicted with food allergies. A diagnosis of food allergy adversely affects one's ability to join or remain in the armed forces. Although individuals with food allergies may apply for the service, each branch has its own regulations to assess the applicant's food allergy history. The Army has recently reported struggles with recruitment, with more than 2/3 of young adults not qualifying due to poor physical fitness or other related issues. Food allergies has become one of those issues, which is far more prevalent than when I was growing up or many of the members on this committee were growing up. Readiness to our national security is crucial, and we should be supporting the research to make sure people are prepared and have been treated. Data provided by the Center of Disease Control indicates the prevalence of food allergies has increased by 80% from 1997 to 2015, with peanut and tree allergies appearing to have more than tripled from 1997 to 2008. This rapid acceleration has led without any FDA-approved prevention or treatment of food allergies. DoD study of food allergies is not a new idea. In 2009, the congressionally directed Medicare research program established the Genetic Studies of Food Allergy Research Program with a $2.5 million appropriation to provide support for scientifically meritorious genetic research focused on food allergies. In the 2010 appropriations, it was $1.875 million. Additionally, in 2012 and 2015, food allergies were eligible for research. To conclude, I respectfully request that the subcommittee reestablish food allergies eligible for research funding. Senator Blumenthal is making that request on the Senate side. I know you often like to hear whether we have a companion in the Senate, and I know Senator Blumenthal will be doing that. I appreciate the consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate the gentleman's testimony, particularly as it relates to health care. You're one of the few members I recall in all my years on this subcommittee who has addressed the issue of food allergies. Appreciate that as well, and appreciate the fact that you've testified before Mr. Cole's subcommittee as well, given your commitment. For the record, I just want to make it clear, however, that the monies that are spent on peer review and medical programs are all added by this subcommittee. They are not in the budget's request by the president, nor they have been in a bipartisan fashion. It has been Congress's work, so I think it's doubly important that you have testified before us today. My only question is, if you were born in Philadelphia, went to school in Chicago, why are you in California? No, I mean, really, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, Mr. Calvert has the answer.
I went there after school, but my folks are still right outside Philadelphia.
There you go. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you for your leadership.
Ms. Scanlon?
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay.
You stayed in Pennsylvania.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Chairman Visklosky, Ranking Member Calvert, and members of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee. It's a privilege to appear before you today. I'm here to speak in strong support of the CH-47F Block 2 program. I'm honored to represent Pennsylvania's 5th Congressional District, which is home to the Chinook program, and especially proud that the CH-47 program is the longest continuous helicopter production line in the Department of Defense. The production facility in Ridley is home to more than 4,000 skilled workers who build the finest heavy-lift helicopter in the world. It's flown by the U.S. Army and 19 countries around the globe. These men and women in the dedicated supply chain across the nation deliver the Chinook to the Army on average 53 days ahead of schedule. In July 2017, after completing a detailed analysis, the Army formally certified to Congress that the CH-47F Block 2 program was a critical requirement for the Army. The Army told Congress that the upgrades provided by Block 2 are necessary to significantly advance its capability to lift more weight in terms of both personnel and cargo, to fly at higher altitudes and fly in hotter temperatures. Now, just 20 months after making that certification to Congress, the Army seeks to delay F Block 2 production by 5 years, and if the Undersecretary of the Army's statement is accurate, not procure additional CH-47F aircraft at all. I understand that the Army must make tough decisions, but delaying the production of the Block 2 program is not in the best interest of national security. We've heard from the Army that if they don't have the Block 2 aircraft, then they're going to have to compensate in their mission planning by having shorter range, less lift capacity, less cargo. So there isn't really a suitable replacement for the Chinook, and I know I don't need to convince any of you of the utility of this critical aircraft. Delaying or ending this program without having a suitable replacement would have significant consequences, both in terms of cost and military readiness. The Army's analysis of alternative study determined that the F Block 2 was the most cost-effective way to provide both advanced capability and to save taxpayer dollars. The Chinook program supports more than 20,000 jobs and more than 200 suppliers in 38 states. A good number of those suppliers are small businesses, so if the program is delayed or canceled, they face a very real risk of closure, and aside from the personnel impact, that's going to drive up costs. Further, the CH-47 Block 2 program is one of the top-performing programs in the entire Department of Defense. The first F Block 2 test aircraft has already flown a month ahead of schedule, and it continues to meet or exceed all DoD acquisition metrics. So I'm asking you to support the fiscal year 20 budget request for the aircraft requested, a total of 9 aircraft for Special Operations Command, 8 base and 1 OCO, and to add $28 million in advance procurement to enable the previously planned fiscal year 21 low-rate initial production of the first 5 CH-47F Block 2 aircraft, and include directive report language that conveys to the Army to execute the Chinook Block 2 program per their formal July 2017 notification to Congress. So I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I look forward to working with you as the important fiscal year 20 defense appropriations process moves forward. Thank you.
Certainly appreciate your concern about lift and the Army's capacity. Chinook, we had the Secretary of the Army and Chief in yesterday for our hearing on Army, and it was certainly one of the issues that was discussed. Always good to have a Quaker before the subcommittee, I must tell you. Any other comments?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Very much.
Mr. Rhoda, I see your colleague from California showed up just in time to hear you.
Got 2 members here.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member and members and staff of the subcommittee. It is an honor to be with you today, offering support for the men and women in our armed forces. Thank you for the work that you and your staff perform every day to provide oversight and appropriations for our military. The fiscal year 2020 reflects many worthwhile priorities across the Department of Defense. I am here today to request the subcommittee's support for a new Navy program that will help develop the future of unmanned undersea vehicles. Specifically, the Navy's extra-large unmanned undersea vehicle, the XLUUV program, is a new innovative acquisition program intended to develop part of the Navy's future fleet of UUVs. The requirement for a fleet of unmanned undersea vehicles developed from a joint emerging operational need coming from the United States Indo-Pacific Command, nicknamed ORCA, the XLUUV program, is a big undertaking. Literally, the UUVs are anticipated to be up to 84 feet in length and nearly 10 feet in width, with a modular payload that can carry and integrate different payloads depending on the missions. The notion is that these autonomous vehicles could complement the submarine fleet, performing the dirty, dull, dangerous missions that are more appropriate for unmanned vehicles. While the Navy has experience in this type of technology, the XLUUV program will help inform its UUV family of systems approach for a larger fleet of autonomous vehicles. It can be a transformational program that offers a new approach to supporting the submarine fleet. Funding in fiscal year 2020 will help fund the fabrication of 5 prototypes for testing and the development of operations for the XLUUV class of vehicles. The program is truly in a nascent stage. The first contracts for prototyping were awarded last year, with manufacturing beginning this year. It is important for the subcommittee to support the program as it gets its sea legs, pun intended, in this early development and testing. I ask that you please support the level of funding included in the President's budget request this year. The state of California is one of the leaders in autonomous technologies, and the XLUUV program will continue this leadership as some of the prototypes will be designed, engineered, and manufactured in my district. I'm looking forward to seeing the program develop, and I ask for your help in shaping the Navy's unmanned undersea future together. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I yield the balance of my time back.
I appreciate very much your testimony today and the fact that the emphasis is on making sure we keep that technological edge over some of our adversaries, particularly the Russians and Chinese. So do appreciate the time and preparation. The only question I have is, if you went to the University of Kentucky, how did you end up in California? Mr. Calvert.
You made the right decision.
You made the right thing. Well,
But by the way, I'm very...
And now I'll recognize Mr. Rogers.
I jokingly say my only mistake in moving to California was not moving sooner.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. We are adjourned.